Hey, it's Rebecca Rutherford. Welcome to the What in the Well podcast. My friend Angie Huber and I are here to provide an entertaining and relatable perspective on well-being. If you want to shift your mindset and make incremental progress toward your work and home life goals, you are in the right place.
Well, hey, Rebecca, good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
And listeners, thanks for tuning in today to What in the Well podcast. Rebecca and I are coming to you today with the fantastic topic that we want to mind jam about is listening.
Yes. Oh, listening.
Oh, listening.
Why are you so hard?
Why?
All
the time.
All the time.
All the time. When? All the instances.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot wait to talk about this with you because I feel like everybody in some ways will admit that they kind of are not good at listening, right?
Yeah.
But like all of the skills that we focus on learning in school and growing up, it's all about public speaking or communicating and talking and vocalizing. But I did, as a communications major in college, I took a class on listening, and it was really hard. It was really, really hard because it was humbling to realize how bad at it I was. How to like leave stuff out in the space, out in space, like having a conversation with somebody and just letting them talk.
Yeah.
Is not something that I'm great at. I want to fill the void with words, no matter what.
It's like listening to listen to truly to understand, or so many of us just listen to respond. Like we can't wait. We're listening so that I can share with you what I'm thinking.
Yes.
It's, it goes back to the old adage, we were created with two ears and one mouth for a reason.
Yes.
Yet this thing gets in the way a lot.
100%.
That prevents true listening.
Yeah. So why do you think that is?
We're just human beings that are very narcissistic.
Well, okay. So to be honest with you though, again, like we've talked about ego before, the ego and the observer. And I just feel like the ego, you can listen from two perspectives, either your ego self or your observer self.
Yeah.
And really in order to be effective, it's got to be the observer self at the table, but the ego is always there. And when you're problem solving with somebody, like how good does it feel to give your advice? Right? You're like, everybody wants to be right. So
yeah, but giving the advice a lot of times isn't necessarily even helpful.
It's most of the time not what people even want. They just want to be heard.
They want. Yes, they just want to be heard. Well, and take that a step further. Like, what is it really?
Yeah.
People just want to be understood and seen.
Yes. So last year, I gave a presentation on listening to a group of about 200 Missouri city clerks and finance officers. And the topic was listening, and it was about how to listen better, how to be listened to, and how to listen to yourself. And the definition that I ended up creating after I was done putting together my presentation is ultimately what it comes down to is that listening is the art of making people feel important. So it's either, if you're listening to yourself, it's making yourself feel worthy of being heard. But when listening to other people, you're engaging in an opportunity to help make them feel important. So if you think about it, when you're talking to somebody or when somebody's trying to pour their heart out to you and they just want to be listened to, what can you do that would make them feel important? It's not fixing their problem or speaking. It's showing up in the way that they want to be, in the way that serves them best in that moment.
Gosh, that's so good, Rebecca. Like I'm just sitting here thinking about that. That's it. It's the art. It's almost a language. Listening is the language to make people feel important or seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of goes to my mug today. You matter, right?
Yes.
Listening is what you can do. It is the tool to make people feel like you matter. And if we can give ourselves permission that we actually don't need to problem solve,
right,
we can save ourselves words.
Right.
It's the listening.
So you, when we talked about this before meeting now, you mentioned there's different levels of listening. And
Yes.
I would love to hear about that because I don't know much about that. Maybe they taught me that in school 20 years ago. I don't know. But I don't remember that.
Oh, I love
So
the 3 levels of listening, and that's all in coaching. So like that's a
yeah,
coaching, that's all from coaching, and we go deep into it. So and before I hop into that, there's a quote that I love that's resonating with me around and kind of realize or kind of aligns with what you're saying is when you're talking, you are only repeating what you know. But if you listen, that's again the art form where you can actually learn something new.
ooh, I like
So
that.
now, if we got this new art form or this new language,
Yeah,
listening allows you to learn
yeah,
and it allows you to make others feel important and seen.
yeah.
Holy cow, that's why we have 2 ears and only one mouth.
Right. Exactly.
This
Exactly.
this is it. Not
Right.
this.
Right.
To make
Exactly.
it's the window. It's the gateway to making people feel seen and to learning.
Right. Yeah,
Ooh.
it
So let's
is.
yeah, let's unpack the 3 levels of listening. And we will link up to this in the we have an article that we'll link up here in the show notes for it. Um but level 1, so there's 3 levels. And level 1 listening is again, you're listening to respond. It's all about you. So to
Yeah.
in your words, it's I'm listening, but I'm listening to respond and I want to respond because I want to feel important,
Right.
right?
That's the
So
ego, the
it's the
ego
ego.
level.
It's focused on themselves. So it's
Yep.
focused on self and our reaction to what's being said to us. So that's level 1. Level 2 is when you start listening and you're not focused on yourself, you're actually focused on other.
Yep.
So, and you're more tuned into what are they saying? What's the information that's being conveyed? So you're really tuned in to the words, but it's focused on other. So that's level 2. Level 3 listening, which is a skill that we're all practicing. It's called global listening. And this is where you're focused on the other. So I'm looking at you, right? So if I'm looking at you, I'm noticing your body language. I'm noticing the room around you. I'm noticing your facial expressions, which is very serious right now. Right now, you're
Yeah.
smiling. So I'm noticing not just the words or what's happening or our exchange, but I'm noticing everything.
Right.
Rebecca, it might have, it's more of that intuitive
Yeah.
kind of listening where you're getting a sense like, Rebecca, your posture, what's your posture saying right now? Like, what are you saying by not saying anything? What are you
Right.
thinking? So level 3 is really that
So it's
global
the
listening,
nonverbal included.
the nonverbal.
Right.
Oh yeah, all the nonverbals, the senses.
Yeah.
What are you noticing?
Yeah.
And so when do you use what? Right?
Yeah. Well, I think
Like
in
we
any,
can't be in level 3 all the time. Like when's it appropriate for level 1? When's it appropriate for level 2, level 3?
right. Yeah. I think that this is just going to be one of those days. I think
This is
somebody
what we
showed up
want
with,
though. It's relatable, right?
well, yeah,
Relatable
I mean, I'm listening to my dog now. So,
listening. And
yeah.
what are you noticing about your dog?
Well, I'm noticing that she wants to make it perfectly clear to the postman that he's not welcome here.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and are you listening for her or for you? Which level of
well, in this
listening are
case,
you?
I'm listening for both of us because, for one, I'm listening to her because I'm like, how serious is the issue? What is her bark telling me? Is she
Mhm.
like, is it a playful come in here and pet me bark? Or is it like, I think we're being attacked and I'm defending the castle bark?
Yep.
And then I'm listening for me because I'm like, I really, really would love it so much if she would stop. I just really wish for me that she would please stop.
So
So,
maybe this is a great example of a level 1 and 2. It's for you and her. But
okay, so
ultimately though, probably if we're being honest, probably for you.
yeah, mostly. Yeah, exactly. Because I don't perceive any threats. I can hear the post, I can hear like UPS or whoever it was outside driving off, and I'm like, I think we're good. think it's just a package I ordered. But so this is funny and a little like a gift that happened right then, because now I'm starting to think about like, I guess I always thought that the goal was to always be level 3, right? But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and I think that like it's okay to sometimes admit that like this is a level 1 or level 2 situation, because sometimes somebody wants you to listen and you don't want to, because maybe they're saying stuff that you're like, this is untrue, this is painful, this is whatever. Like you can't not get your ego involved, and you just like need to, I don't know, cut it short or identify that in your mind as like, should I be attempting to listen right now, or do I need to like abort mission and wait until I'm in a good headspace to where I can listen? Because you're right, like we can't always be like, again, the ego is there for a reason. It's not, the point isn't to, get rid of your ego entirely. It's to work with it and know when it needs to be present and when it needs to like take a backseat.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up a good point. It's awareness that there are 3 levels of listening, but
Yeah,
one's neither good nor bad. It just is.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's asking yourself, what's need like any interaction, what's happening here and what's
right,
needed? What's the
yeah,
listening that's needed here? Because we cannot be intuitive global listeners all day long in
yeah,
every situation. That's exhausting, right? and
right,
and to your point, it doesn't necessarily call for that.
right,
I think the like in most interactions, am I listening for me or am I listening for others?
yeah, yeah. I think that's good.
I mean,
That's
that's the reflection, right? When you're listening and you're responding, is it because you just want to hear yourself talk? You're listening so that you can speak next and you want to hear
yeah,
yourself talk?
yeah,
And then as I'm talking, I'm like, why am I talking? So that's another acronym that I love with coaches and in coaching. It's wait,
yes.
wait.
Why?
Why am I talking?
I love that. Yes. Yep. That's something that I've used as well. I'm like, I need to wait. I need to wait. I'm filling the air. This person's trying to tell me something. What are, in your experiences, some of like the skills that it takes though? Because I loved hearing you talked about, was it mirroring or reflecting a moment ago about, when you're present with somebody, some really like kind of tactical almost tools of helping somebody feel heard too. Like if we nod together, you and I am mirroring you, it helps you feel heard.
Mhm.
What are some other ones that you've used in the past?
Yeah. When you're listening and not speaking, it is the mirroring. So as you're nodding, am I nodding with you? Am I leaned in?
Yeah,
Just leaning in,
yeah.
looking at your eyes,
Hmm.
like we're making eye contact.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at you right now. What are you,
Wherever you are on the screen.
wherever you are on the screen?
Yeah.
So, mm-hmm. Yes, like just
Affirmations.
affirmations, acknowledgments, like wow, but just keep letting them go.
Yeah. Something that I've had to also incorporate as a tool is when somebody gets to the pause, this is something that my husband and I really had to work on. I mean, the more you care about somebody, the more you want to fix their problems if they're coming to you with a problem. So it's easy to immediately go into fix mode when somebody's coming to you with an issue, especially if you care about them. So we have had to find a way to remember that when the other person comes and has something that they want to talk about, to ask, are you just venting, or did you want me to just listen to you in this moment, or are you looking for advice?
Yeah, it's allowing ourselves and recognizing we don't need to be chief problem solvers,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
All the time. We're just
Yeah.
going around solving problems all day long.
Absolutely.
It can actually be freeing if it's
Yeah.
to help to learn something new and to make people feel seen. I just need to
Yeah.
be with them and listen
What
and
about
ask.
when it comes to being heard, or like when you want somebody to listen to you, which is obviously a challenge when you have in the workplace, when you need to
Mm,
make a case, or with your spouse or with your partner. or with a friend or with a parent or with a kid or whoever you have a relationship with. I think a lot of people struggle with also feeling like they are doing something wrong when it comes to being heard, being listened to.
Mm-hmm.
It's very challenging.
Yeah, it's asking questions.
Yeah.
So I was talking about the nonverbals, but some of the verbals too.
Yeah.
How do you stay curious just a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Is it Michael Bungay Stanger? I might be that wrote The Coaching Habit. The Coaching
Yeah.
Habit's an awesome, awesome book. We probably should link to it in here.
Sure.
And it's his whole thing is how do you stay curious just a little bit longer?
Sure.
That allows you to say, why am I talking? So instead of feel like you got to go into chief problem solver mode, how do you just give
Yeah.
yourself the grace and the permission just to be with
Yeah.
and stay
Yeah.
curious? So at work, a lot of times I'm in a brand new role right now, brand new role. And I'm like, how do I want to be shown up? How do I want to be influencing? How do I want to add value?
Mhm.
It's not by talking right
Yeah.
now. And I don't know that it will be.
Mhm.
Curiosity, asking questions,
So
listening.
if I'm understanding correctly, then one of the things that you feel like is a good tool in order to be listened to is to set the tone that you are a listener first.
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Or I like what you were saying with you and Jason, like what do you need here in this moment?
Yeah,
So it's kind of setting it up. Like,
yeah, yeah. I
Rebecca,
think
what's our
there's,
one? Yeah, like ultimately, what do we want? What's today about in essence?
yeah. I think it's about the fact that listening is a practice, and just like anything else, there are tools that exist in order to help you finesse that practice, and that most of us don't come out early on in relationships wanting to listen. We're more inclined to potentially want to be heard first to make our case. But for strong relationship building, it's important to strike a balance. And I think the other thing too that has really been a light bulb moment for me in this conversation is that the levels of listening, there isn't one in particular that is ideal. I really did, up until a few minutes ago, think that the goal was always to be at that level 3.
Yeah. No,
That's
I don't
always,
think it is. I think sometimes you speak for yourself, right? To be heard,
right.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
want to be there for others. And then the
Yeah.
global listening was when you're really
Yeah.
going deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I'm walking away with, and what I would love the listeners or our listeners to walk away with too, is that it's where you started. It's the artwork. What is the art or the path that listening provides? And
Yeah.
it's to make others or even ourselves, if we're in level 1, feel seen and important.
Yeah.
And it's to learn. That's how we learn.
I love this. There was a story that I heard about Winston Churchill's mother, and she went to a dinner party where 2 candidates for prime minister were also in attendance. And she sat and spent some time with both potential prime minister candidates. And after the fact, somebody asked her, you know, based on her conversations with them, which one do you feel like would make a better prime minister? And she said, well, after talking to Prime Minister 1, candidate 1, it was very clear to me that he was easily probably one of the smartest people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But after talking to candidate 2, I left the room feeling like I was the smartest person in the room. Boom.
Mic drop. That's it.
Right? Yeah.
That's what listening, that is what listening gives, that you get to make people feel like they are the smartest people in the room. And
Yes.
that is, what does Maya Angelou say? They might not remember what you do or what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
100%.
And
Yep.
listening is a key ingredient to that.
Yep. The art of making people feel important.
The art of people. So go practice, listeners.
Yes.
Practice your listening. Test around, play around with why are you listening? Are you
Yeah.
listening for you? Are you listening for them? Practice
Yeah.
making people feel seen. Use
Yes.
this beautiful art form.
If you must, wait.
Wait. Practice
Yeah.
waiting.
Why am I talking?
Talk less.
Yes.
Listen more.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of What in the Well. Be sure to review, rate, and subscribe to our podcast. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover, share it in the comments. Stay well until we meet again.